We are live. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Cause and Effect podcast, where we introduce the cause and effect relationships that exist in golf in relation to the hand to handle the club relationship. Yeah, exactly. Full on claw. This week was a big week. I mean, I feel like, so I was actually teaching a lot this week. I'm back to kind of full-time teaching. Jonathan still like in the golf industry, but is doing a huge art project right now. So his golf instruction is kind of on hold a little bit. But I don't know. I had a fun week. I mean, we hung out on Monday, that was
Sunday
actually
night,
yeah.
actually, but yeah.
And man, we figured out some
Well,
stuff
he
that I
figured
was,
out. He
yeah,
figured out.
I was kind of missing just a couple key pieces
Yup.
with the claws and
Bringing the lingo to sense.
yeah, well, it was
Or
just
making sense of the
it
lingo.
was more just like understanding kind of the key things, right? There's like a lot of like variables in the golf swing and a lot of things going on. And it's always hard, and especially with what we're doing, because we're really trying to like unlock like the secrets that the tour players are doing and really like digging deep. And I mean, with our grip, we've collected a lot of data and we've figured out like what the best players in the world are really doing. And now it's just like teaching that is now like another level,
Right.
like understanding it's one thing,
Right.
but being able to like communicate that to people is just like, it's a different level for sure. And we've taught a lot of lessons collectively between the two of us. I mean, at our last job, I mean, you taught over 20,000 lessons, 25,000. And I taught, I think just over like 15,000 when I was there. So we've seen a lot of the patterns.
Yeah.
And
Well, the big
it's cool.
thing,
Like we're always like evolving and leveling up, like as people, as golf instructors. And I've really like in the last year, I feel like I've really leveled up a lot because I'm more like involved with our content, and the content that we're putting out is really good. And I think it's helping a lot of people, and I know it is. I mean, we got our Discord going right now, where we're getting a lot of good responses on our TikToks, YouTube. But the big thing that I really feel like I figured out this week that I wasn't really emphasizing enough, and when it comes to the claws, I mean, just understanding the claws of really just getting like, we go like palm to palm, getting like the fingers extended away from the palms, and then like pinching the thumbs and forefingers together. The amount of energy that you can really exert with like the underparts of your arms and like through your like knuckle pads into that cylinder and into that grip, and then understanding once you have that connection and you're like exerting that energy
and what
and
muscles
pressure.
are the actual claws isolating, because that's the one thing too that I don't think a lot of our users are still understanding is
Right.
that like when you get claws, what is it really doing? It's allowing you to isolate like muscles and tendons
Right.
and nerves basically to a point where
Yeah.
then you can utilize different parts of your hands to do different things, which is used in everything that we do.
And it
Like as
controls
far
your
as
body,
shooting, like, or
and
like if you think about pool or like a tennis
martial
racket or
arts,
like, throwing a
and
football, like
yeah,
literally every single sport or activity that you do
you use your claw.
recreationally, you can like benefit from getting claws
Absolutely.
because
Yeah.
it just allows you to utilize or like have the perfect connection of your hands to the object that you're trying to
Like
send the
use.
energy to.
Yeah,
Or like,
exactly.
or
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we'll say the effect to.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
The proper effect.
So yeah, that was a big, I mean, when we hung out, you kind of like looked at my golf swing, because I mean,
Well, you
I'm
said
always,
that you've always been asking me about your claws.
yeah,
And I
like,
keep saying that they're
right.
like they look good, but at the same time though, there was like a certain amount of perfection. I mean, you were about 90% there. But once you unlock
yeah,
that 10%, then
then
all
it
of a
was
sudden
like,
it was
boom.
like,
It
oh
was
my
a light
gosh,
bulb
like
moment.
okay, now I feel it throughout my entire body, all the way from my feet to the ground.
Yes.
And then you went on a golf trip and played great
incredible.
and
Played incredible.
won your golf trip. And,
Yeah, I played really good. I was super impressed with my game. But I felt like my golf swing got a lot easier and there was less moving
Right.
parts, because I felt like my claws were like connected to my brain, and all I had to do was basically just like do what the tour players do, like get the perfect connection to the club, push out away from
and
my
that
body,
perfect
twist.
connection that we're gonna bring up on this podcast
Yeah.
is the claw law, and we're gonna talk
Yes.
we're gonna talk way more about it's the claw law. We're gonna talk way more about this down the road, but that is a huge like thing going forward.
Well, because it's like it's that freedom of knowing you're gonna have that like guarantee of what the club's gonna do.
exactly.
Like
So that's what it gives you. The claw law gives you the club guarantee.
the club guarantee, right? And
Right.
we've talked about the guarantee.
And the
like,
claws are the
whoever-
holster for the club guarantee. So
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because I mean, once you that was another cool thing that you when you talked about the claws to me is you really talked about how like the basically the distance from like your pinch of your thumb and forefinger to like the curl of your first finger is exactly where that like cylinder or that grip like sits in there.
right.
And it's different than like you look at baseball. Baseball, you're holding like a big bat. So like
Right.
you don't have to have
or
like
a hockey stick.
exactly
You know,
like you can hold it like
it's flatter and a little
this,
different. Right.
but with a golf grip, it's very precise on how you put it in your hand because you have to be precise on how you like swing it, right?
Right,
Like
right.
at the end of the day, you're swinging a cylinder, like you say in all of our content, right? But
It's funny
it-
with hockey, by the way, just to chime into that, because you think
Yeah.
about it with a hockey stick, you have like a bigger blade and it's actually like a thinner cylinder. It's not a cylinder, it's actually more of like a thin rectangle.
right,
And you're hitting a circular puck that has a
Yeah.
certain
a
distance.
lot of
So
similarities.
when you flex that stick against the, ice against the puck, then it creates a natural spring effect, which is similar to golf, which is why most hockey players are halfway decent at golf. But the idea though with baseball is that you're holding a bat and a cylinder that's more rounded and you're swinging at something that is like shoulder level or a little
Correct.
bit below,
and it's
right?
like the amount of precision needed to like get that when
To
it's
project,
2D.
yeah, to
It's like
project
so
it back.
much easier
Yeah,
to do this,
the
but
rebound
you get in
effect.
like a golf setup and it's like 3D and that plane is like around you and it's like,
Mhm.
oh gosh, like I'm on a bend forward axis, the club is moving like in certain ways and
It's the most complex
Ugh.
sport we have.
man, oh man, it's a lot of energy to teach and especially like I don't know, like we've always been all people that have put a lot of energy into our golf lessons because we like truly care about our people. Like
Right.
I remember I told you that quote the other day. I was watching that Stanford women's golf documentary about the golf team, and it was on like No Laying Up on YouTube. And the women's coach, she said a really cool quote. She said, the players don't care about what you know until they know that you care." And I just thought
Right.
that was like so cool, and it's true. Like
This is why
we-
we're doing
yeah.
basically what we're doing
'Cause we
is because
care.
we're trying to get our, community to like get on board with what we're doing. And we're
Right.
going to be launching stuff for everyone
'Cause we
soon.
are,
And
like-
we're not worried about like, it's not about the money really. It's more about just fixing the game to a point where everyone can get to the point they want to be at golf. And it doesn't have to be this game
we
that's
just want to help
crazy
man.
anymore. And
we
like
just want to help.
nobody knows where to go for information and help because it's really just the chances that you have to get the proper coach for what
It's
you
not
need.
good.
It's I
It's
mean we're
not,
talking we're
unfortunately.
talking slim to none.
I
It
mean,
doesn't
it's
matter even
sad.
if you're at like a country club and you have a lot of money and stuff. It doesn't matter.
And that's not like bashing any coaches.
No, we're
or
not bashing anyone.
anything,
It's
like,
the hardest thing to teach people
Yeah.
is because of what we have to work with.
correct, exactly. And the information that's out there right now is what you're kind of like taught with, right? Like you look at the PGA, and I mean, I went through like the smallest version of that, right? When I was gonna get PGA certified, and I remember looking at that manual, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, remember the ball flight laws were all weird, and it was just like, it was really bad. But really, when my lessons this week were awesome, and I was really happy with them because, I mean, I'm just getting better as a coach, and it's cool because like I've always like worked on my golf game a lot, and now I'm like working on being a better coach too, right? So, and I've always been
Right.
that way. Like, remember when I first got a job at Golf Tech? Like, I used to watch all of your golf lessons you ever
Right.
gave, and I was always trying to get better. And now I'm to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm really, really close to just like putting all these pieces together.
Right.
Well,
He's putting them together. The point is, though, too, is that he's had me with him for 6 years, and he was very knowledgeable. And I mean, like, if anybody looks at it from a coaching standpoint, like for 6 years, you can totally. I mean, you can go for 50 years and understand what you think is the concepts.
Right,
But if you
right.
can't actually feel them, then to be able to actually then give that information properly to a person that's struggling, you can't pinpoint exactly what they're
true.
doing. Like that's the key to becoming the best coach you can be.
Absolutely.
Is knowing it all, but also being able to feel it and do it all. And you don't have to be a perfect player, but you have to understand like how to take the proper divot.
Exactly.
Understand the zones of the swing, like with the different grip types and how to swing on a 45-degree plane. But if you don't understand how to do that properly and you're just,
floating
trying to
around.
like, think about like one thing in your backswing, then it's,
Well, that's the thing too, is like, I mean, if you find a coach that like truly like puts in a lot of work in their own game and truly understands like what they're doing to become a better golfer, then I think that's going to be a really good coach
Right.
because
Well, this is
they
why we're trying to create the ultimate,
the
like, it's
ultimate
basically
coach.
just, we're putting the coach in our game club, which we have right here.
Correct. This is like our little prop
Yes.
prototype of it, but
So the
yeah,
technology will be inputted in there, and then it will train you perfectly in whatever environment you want. And we're going to keep
correct.
coming up with more trainings and everything,
Hmm.
because the idea is that we are only two people, and we'll say that in a sense he's Baby Yoda, I'm Yoda, and
Right.
there's only
Absolutely.
there's so few of us that care that much to put the word out, but we're also two people. So, you know, if and especially with all the stuff going on with the world, if you can do it at home in your own comfortable environment,
Yeah,
but have the
absolutely.
same information being said in the same way, or whatever way that you want to,
Yeah.
make it perfect for you, then that's what
Like,
we're creating.
man, I remember when I had the Wii Golf, and I love that thing, and I played it like I was playing for the Masters. But if that thing would have been accurate and it
Right.
would have
It's
taught
so,
me
yeah,
golf,
so
and like
inaccurate.
if I would have got good
Right.
based on using that, oh my
If we
gosh.
have a way to do online leagues and compete and do
Yeah, exactly.
practicing, like whatever, I mean,
With
it's
VR
endless
and
with what we're
AR
about to
and
do.
oh man,
Right,
it's just
right.
it's gonna be wild.
So the
Um,
cool thing too, so again, like with the claw law, that's basically the law of our like intelligence to a certain extent, and with our community on Clawthoria. So it's cool how all these things that we're about to launch are
mhm.
going to be all stemmed around that, and we're just going to keep giving more information about, in a sense, like what that is
Absolutely.
and what the claw law is about.
Like we're gonna show tour players like using the
Yeah, how
claws.
the
We're gonna
claw
show
law, like
like
how they're abiding by it.
right, like look at Tiger, look at his pinch that he gets between his thumb and forefinger at his setup. Look at
Right,
his claw. Look how he's connecting his trail hand claw to
right,
his lead hand. Like he's kind of like milking that grip because he's really trying to set the like cylinder in his holsters
right.
perfectly because once it's in there, now he's like, okay, now I can push against it, I can twist, I can hinge, I can do everything I need to do to be able to deliver that club to the ball the same way every time. And it's exciting. Like it's what keeps all of the struggle of being a golf coach kind
Well,
of
we're just
like
trying to make it fun and
yeah,
cool, but we
exactly.
understand the secrets, really, we do, but
Yeah.
it's, again, making it more understandable for people. So it's almost like you think about claw law, and when you're not abiding by claw law, let's say with a tour player, and they have one thing that you're like, oh, they could do that definitely better. You could possibly go to jail, like claw jail overnight,
Right.
because you got to like
Because
sit
you're
there
not
and
like
like go
abiding by the
over like what's
clause.
going on and train to get back to
And that's why
ready
like
like
we
the next
created like
day.
our comic book. Like we've got if you've watched like any of our content on TikTok, you'll probably see like a golf ball like jumping around. That is Dimples. This is our little like
3D
character here. We
lumberjack.
3D, like we made him 3D and like bouncing around our content. But we're really just trying to find like fun, cool ways to talk about like your relationship with the golf club, what the golf ball goes through if you do it right, what the golf ball goes through if you do it wrong, what the world is like if you're not abiding by the clause. Like that's
Yes.
I'm like
That's
with
gonna
our
be our
comic
whole
book, like
Clawthoria
oh
thing.
man, it's gonna be
Yes,
really
yes.
cool.
Claw
And
law is gonna be there.
yeah, exactly, because
And it's
that's
gonna,
kind of
well,
what
we're gonna
we're
relate it to real life too
well, yeah, because
here.
that's what we see.
So
Like we've been
yeah.
around the industry a while and we've seen like what is the current state of like golfers. Like people aren't getting any better. Like I'm sorry, they're just not. Like
There's not a like a, if you want to say, like a generic Bible for the golf, but, or I mean,
right,
I'm sorry, there's not a generic Bible for golf, but that's exactly what this is that
right,
I figured out. It was like, let's just create like this idea, and then like we can explain it all in a
correct.
generic sense that you can't really have any confrontation about,
Because the
because
tour
it's
players are
literally
doing
what's
it
going on. Like
exactly.
this is what the golf club does and the
Correct.
ball. And then from there, you have three different ways to do it with the different grip types. And then we can explain how to do each one of
And
those.
show like each tour player, show John Rahm with like like a wheat grip and bowing his wrist. You
Right.
show like I don't know, like you've got Rory McIlroy who's maybe a little bit more on the stronger side. You've got Joaquin Neiman who's also on the stronger side. Like you've got all of these examples of these tour players that are doing what we're saying. It's
hmm
not like we're coming
But
up
the
with this
way
like
that they work or like utilize their claws is, you know, the cool thing, right?
correct,
Like they don't all
exactly.
have the same, swing type, but what they do, like I would say, it's more like if you have Joaquin Neiman, he's thinner and more like less stocky than a John Rahm. So,
Correct.
but if you're like stockier and bigger built and you have the way to be able to keep a shorter swing and create the speed, like whatever you got to do,
Right.
you know,
We'll tell
um,
you like how like you can basically it's like a la carte, right? Like
It is truly a la
you've
carte.
got
You
like
choose your grip type, then you go into what we have to work on, which then we start you off at quarter
yeah,
to quarter, then we
I
go
like
to
that.
half, three quarter, and then full to full. And then we can also walk you through the entire bag of exactly like what club you're hitting and the like ways to thump the ground
Correct.
against grooves with the trailing edge and leading edge. Like
Yes.
it's all like right there, and it makes a lot more
That's
sense
cool. I
than
like the olive carte. I like the a la carte
yeah,
thing. That's cool because
yeah.
we're not like putting you in like one corner. Like
No,
you
you
got to do
can.
the strong
Well,
grip.
we
Like
can recommend what you need for what you come to the table with because we will have
correct.
an evaluation
Absolutely.
of how old you are, what physical type you're in,
We'll
and
collect the data
flexibility.
of
Right,
like
right,
your
right.
control
What one's going to be
swing.
the
Yeah.
best way for you, or also, too, what kind of problems have you had in the past,
Correct.
and then give you the proper solution, then you go from there.
Correct. Exactly. And then it's just
Let's all
basically,
train at home
and then
and
it's just finding the patterns, right? Like as
mhm,
golf instructors, we've seen the patterns of like what good players do, what bad players do, and you just kind of recognize those. And that's what we've kind of built this whole kind of company around, right? It's just the
right,
patterns of like what the good players do, what the bad players do,
right.
and like what's the kind of discrepancy between those two things. And it really like the big light bulb moment for me this week though was just like spending time with like my claws, like just sitting in a chair
Right.
and just like feeling the pinches between the thumbs and forefingers, right? And feeling once I had those pinches, then I could extend my fingers and then I could truly feel like I was pushing with my palms against the grip, right? And that's like when you see that and it's like, okay, we're
Yeah,
not
when you talk about push pressure, it's like laser beams coming straight out of your palms, going straight forward. Like
correct.
once you get this, it's like that pushing action creates like this cylinder beam that
Correct.
then allows you to maintain, if you maintain it with the proper, we'll say different grip types and how you twist and everything and hinge, that is like changing the laser beam, but that is what affects
What the
the
club
handle
does,
to
right?
the club
Mm-hmm.
relationship, right?
Yep,
So
exactly. And that's what all the good players are doing. And it's not like we're
they do it in their own way. Maybe it's not most efficient, but it's maybe from their past, like what they're comfortable doing,
right.
like at the certain time.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at it and how many people on tour have like the perfect parameters, I mean,
Right.
everyone, I mean, there's some I would say that are about 98, 99%. Tiger's probably the closest
Billy
ever.
Horschel, I'm
Like
impressed.
Billy Horschel,
Like
very
the winner
very
last
close, and
week.
Cameron Smith, like really good too. But at
Oh, I
the
love
same
Cam
time, like
Smith.
they utilize though this certain variable that then makes their swing do a certain thing. Because if you look at it again, a perfect golf swing like the Iron Byron, they are all a little bit off from
Correct.
there,
Which is
right? Which
okay.
it, but it is right. So, but again, you're never going to make the same golf swing twice. So, if you think about it, it's like again, what's going to just be more or most repeatable for me
Right.
with what I'm dealing with,
Correct.
and that's it. But I think if everyone knew what the perfect parameters were
They would
and how to
try
do
to
it,
strive for
then
them.
they would strive for it
Yes.
themselves exactly, and that's what
Correct.
we're about to bring to the table.
Because they realize like, oh, okay, like this is just gonna make my life
I
easier,
don't have to
right?
wonder anymore if this is actually going to possibly help me. Like statistically, yeah, there could be problems like where, you've been doing something for, 10 years or something and it's a really small tweak, but it's something that's really hard to change because you naturally like instinctively go back to it. But we
Right.
can give you drills to excessively work on that specific thing and
Yeah.
we can change your brain.
And then once we like
Claw
gamify those
law and the
drills,
drills are
yes.
going to then be able to get your brain to be able to forget about all the bad stuff and learn the new
And it's not
in
just
the
going to be
shortest
like
time.
boring drills either,
No, it's
right?
gonna
It's
be
going to be
fun.
like
It'll be like
fun, like
gamified.
gamified
Yeah.
drills. Like
Mhm.
that's what we're really trying to do. Like at Claw, like our whole thing is like we're injecting new life into golf, but it's like we're doing that with comic books and NFTs and also just like gamifying learning golf and just we're trying to just really flip the whole like idea of golf on
Right.
its head.
Yes.
And just
Yes.
really like look at things outside the box. Like
Make it more enticing to learn golf too. Like just, again, we want to be the people that people come to if they have questions or they
yes.
want to learn in certain ways. We're gonna be the
And we're
simplest
having a
and
blast. Like
yeah.
we have our Discord right now and we have people I mean if you're not on our Discord, link in the bio. I mean we've got a lot of really awesome content that we're putting out there. It's just more like access to you and I. Like
Right.
it's hard when in the comments or like in the DMs to really like keep an eye on all that. But in Discord, I can just like sit down after a long day and just sit there and like talk to people and be like, "Hey, like
Right.
send us your swing." Like you get a free evaluation of your swing if you join our Discord. But I mean, also you can kind of let us know like how you're progressing and maybe send us a picture of your
Right.
grip. Like that's that kind of access that doesn't exist with a lot of coaches. Like we're really
No,
trying to create like
that information is very valuable that
yes,
we're giving away. So,
exactly.
and
Like
it
join
won't,
the
and it,
Discord.
yeah,
Like that is like if you knew the information that we're putting on like in our content and the access that you're getting to Jonathan and I, like we are good at what we do. Like we
and our
love
people
helping.
have been commenting about the
They're like
same thing.
we're getting
Yeah,
good.
like they really
Yeah.
are improving.
And I mean, I've got it. Like I've got testimonials, and you got testimonials. Like we know what we're talking
Oh yeah,
about.
absolutely.
And now it's just fun because now we get to do it instead of just helping like 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 people a week. Now we get to try to like reach the whole entire world with our message,
That's what the
which
whole
is like
point is of what we're
that's why
doing.
we created this company. That's why we're
That's
doing
right.
everything that we're doing. It's to just really
Yeah, we're not just
reach
we're just not
everybody.
another company that's trying to give another swing methodology.
Yeah, like
We're trying to be the leaders in understanding what the actual
what the
golf
heck
club and the
the
ball
club is
does.
doing, right?
And you do, because it comes down to your
Like
claws and your feet.
nobody understands this club. Nobody understands like how it moves, how
Right.
it twists, how it
Oh, there's some
hinges.
that do. No, there's definitely, it's not that no one understands,
Well,
but
no, but I
the
would say
problem is
like
though, there's
the
no,
majority.
the biggest problem though is that no one's actually broken it down to understanding the entirety of what the club can do with like the 3 different ways that you can
Correct.
like consistently swing it, which
Yeah.
is with the 3 different grip types. It's more about a certain idea of the swing or one type of methodology, and that's not going to be relatable though, because not everyone is meant to have the same grip.
Right. Like you look at Snappy
Like,
Gilmore, like that's a really hard swing to do. Like I probably
right.
wouldn't teach that. I'm not gonna lie, I never
Obviously.
would.
Right.
But if you understand, I mean, obviously like the cylinder twists one way, twists the other. I
Yeah,
get it,
understanding
but it's
the
like,
idea of what the golf club does, like that's what we're really trying to get people to understand, is that understand what the golf club does without the golf ball,
yes.
and then how that relates to what the golf ball is going to do. And we're going to give us, give some train aids and stuff
Yes.
down the road to be able to do that and train.
Yep.
But once you get that, then it just makes a lot more sense of what your body needs to do, because then it's like, okay, I'm holding a cylinder. I don't need to be trying to throw my big muscles at it in a certain way. Like I'm
Right.
not trying to hit it with my shoulders. Like my shoulders have rotated, but it's because I
Yes.
wound it like up between my claws and my swing triangle.
Correct. So
You know?
that's a good segue into a couple. We got a couple questions on our TikTok posts, and I want to talk about a couple that are good, really good questions. And one of them is, can you describe like the swing triangle a little bit more? Like everybody's heard, like, oh, you create a triangle between like your shoulders, elbows, and hands. Like, can you just go a little bit deeper of like what the swing triangle really is and like what it controls? I guess would be like a good way to put it.
So when we bring it back to what you learned on Monday, we
Yeah.
talked about in the beginning, what was it, that connection that you learned?
I just basically learned that if I had like basically a certain energy from like my sternum through my arms into my elbows and
So
in
it's
through my claws.
the underparts of your hands and arms.
Right. Okay,
So
got it.
if we like flex your fingers back and you push like this and try to keep like your, let's say this, like if you put your palm to palm relationship together, or if you put your palms side by side and try to get your elbows as tight as possible, that connection is the main link. And then if you maintain that back and through, your elbows are going to stay connected throughout the entire swing. Then you turn like the lead hand for the grip type that you want. Trail hand stays here. But then from there, it's like this interconnection though with the underparts of the hands is key.
That was the
which
big
is also
thing.
why pushing is key, because pushing with your hands is in a we'll say a medical sense, like radial deviation of the wrist upward. But the effect of how it goes against the handle is that your palms push down and your fingers flex back. And what that does is it pushes down against the handle and the club head naturally reacts backward. So not only does it stretch your arms away from you, but it also levers the club in a certain way. And we talked about the different levers that we have.
Correct.
And really it's down to 3 main levers, right? Like we got push, pull, and then twist and whatever your lead wrist is doing. Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, right.
But
we talked about that in the last episode. But
right. But
okay,
but that is like when we talk about pushing against the handle, like doesn't matter what grip type you have, how are you going to push against the handle most effectively? And that's what it comes down to. Even with the lead wrist being weak with the grip and you flex, you're pushing with the back of your left hand like down, out, and away from your body. But it's a different position than pushing this way. Because when you think palm pushing against the cylinder, it makes more sense. Like this is a push.
Right.
This is more of a flex, which is why we call it flexion.
Oh,
But it's a flex. It's like a flex
okay, got
push.
it. Yes.
And then when your lead hand gets to a neutral position, you're pushing, and really there is no flexion. I mean, really only the weak grip is it.
Gotcha.
With that.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so that makes sense. So you're basically still exerting the same pressure like away from your
Yeah.
body. It's just like, how are you
Your lead
doing
and
it?
trail hand have to do the same thing always.
And that's why like it just makes more sense with a strong grip. Like this is pushing.
Or
Like
at least to start with
this
that and learn how to
this
create your
is
pivot points in the club and like
right.
get ultimate control.
Yes.
And then from there, then I would say that you can determine which one's going to be best for you.
Yeah, like if you want to like really get a lot of flexion and use like a lot of body rotation to control like keeping that handle moving the proper way,
Yeah.
you can do that. But again, like you said, always
There's
start with a
pros and
strong
cons
grip.
to everything though.
Correct. Exactly.
I think if you master the neutral to strong grip, that's really where you master the game.
I agree. I agree.
If you want to
100%.
get to like reach your highest, you know,
I mean, I taught a couple of beginners this week
level.
and it was like, it just makes my life so much easier. It makes my life so much easier with a strong grip. Like it's just easy to like teach them how to push. Like it's easy to push when your hands are like
when your
this.
hands are already on top of the cylinder like this, it just makes more sense. And most of the best golfers in the world, like, or we'll say of all time more so, especially in the past, like have all had strong grips.
Can you talk to me about the trail hand and just like the overall like importance of it? Because I feel like it, like yeah, the lead hand's important in pushing and all that, but the trail hand, there's just, I mean, most people are right-handed. They think more right-hand dominant. I just feel like a lot of people would get a lot of benefit if they understood like the importance of the trail hand in the golf swing. Like, can you just give me like a little like basic understanding of it?
Definitely. So you think about your knuckle pads here. When we create claws, you're basically exerting pressure from the pinky pad to the index pad, and the thumb pinch creates like the notch for. And we think about how like the lead hand is like the. We'll say that when you think about the way that the claws connect to the cylinder, the lead hand is like the engine, and then the trail hand is like the caboose of the train. Okay, so when you think about how to displace the proper energy from that trail hand index finger to the pinky pad with the notch pressure, that's going to push against the lead side. So if we have that to help, that's good. If we don't have that helping, we have no chance. If we get the lead side part of the train with the trail side connected and they're pushing appropriately, depending on the grip type, the train's going to be going all time
So that's
on the 45. That's going to keep the train on the roadmap.
On the tracks.
On the roadmap.
On the
That's
tracks.
how we ride the 45.
Got it. Oh, that's a cool way to think about it. I've never thought about it like that.
Because it's like if the hands become, if one hand's working against the other,
the caboose is
then
like,
the train's going to literally hit a corner like of the roadmap, and all of a sudden it's flying off.
Got it. And
So
that's just because
it's that perfect unity.
Okay, so it's more the because that's the big thing that I feel like I'm really getting good with teaching is once you unify your hands. I feel like that trail hand pushing against that lead thumb knuckle is so important.
And the interesting thing is that if you take like your lead hand and you have palm down, trail hand palm up, and you basically take your trail palm pinky finger and your lead hand index finger, and you put where like the trail hand pinky finger like right in between where the lead hand index finger and the middle finger would be, your lead thumb will be perfectly in position for your trail palm. And if you can just maintain that pressure, it's almost like, again, we're trying to squeeze like a plane of glass.
Right.
And now if I disconnect my hands too much like this and separate them, it's like now they're going to be working against each other. There's only like one way. Like God made our hands this way to somewhat try to figure out this game of golf.
Right.
Seriously.
Because like that sits right in there. Like
but it gives you the proper displacement to where when you hold a cylinder, or like think about how big is your grip from, lead hand to trail hand, like the top edge and bottom edge. And it's, approximately what, like 6 inches roughly.
Mm-hmm.
And so like to keep that displacement against the cylinder, that's it. That's all we got.
Right.
So if we unify all the pressures in our hands, then we're going to be able to maximize, our connection and our push.
Right.
Right. Because pushing maintains the swing triangle and allows us to do everything we need to do with the claws.
Right.
If we lose that, the whole root of everything has just went out the window.
Yeah. And I mean, when I talk about the trail hand, once you create that unification, it allows you to set it properly in the backswing, right? Because like those fingers, like once they go like that.
The key thing with claw law is that throughout the entire swing, if you don't maintain pushing properly, like you have to keep pushing throughout the entire swing.
Correct. And you're pushing with your knuckle pads against that cylinder.
So that's like the root to it.
Yes.
And then from there, we do the push-pull, and then like the twist,
depending on what
and then the flexion
use.
extension.
Got
right.
it. Okay.
But the pushing is what maintains the ultimate connection. That's what every great player has ever done of all time.
That's what basically keeps you on like the 45.
It allows you to be able to do it.
So the 45 is
if
what?
45 is imagine a hula hoop. If you're bent forward mat setup and you had a hula hoop at 45 degrees around you,
Okay.
right? So you're staying vertical, bend
Yes.
forward 45s. Once the hula hoop is on that angle,
Got it.
that's it. Now, how do we get the club to ride that?
And then that's all because of the pushing, the
Right.
pulling, the
That's
twisting
how you
of
can
our
actually
claws.
ride that circle is by maintaining it. But yeah, it's like the pushing's the foundational key to it. And then the pulling, the twisting, and the setting of the lead hand for depending on grip type is
Keeps it
then
on
going
the
to
road.
determine how to ride that road
How to
map.
ride the road map.
That's it. That's
You
it.
got your train
Right.
going on the like tracks around
Right.
you,
Right.
and then back like through the ball and like to your finish.
Because
And
the pressure against the handle with our holster of the claws has to be like maintain its tautness
yeah.
to be able to again control that cylinder. Because once the cylinder like levers back and then it lags, has a certain kind of like you can't just loosey goosey kind of just
Right,
hold it
right.
coming down. It's like no,
Oh.
you got to maintain it. And then when it goes to release, you better be ready to go with the
You better-
claw pressure with pushing against the handle with the trail palm stain or the I'll say the trail wrist stain bent
An
while the
extension.
trail arm goes from bent to straight,
Mhm.
and then pushing with that lead wrist appropriately or otherwise, all the lever and lag that you created is then going to mess with you
Correct.
and either snap your neck or pull you out of
Right.
posture, or
Yeah.
Dimples isn't going to like really where you hit him exactly.
No,
So,
exactly. And
you
it's
know,
like you've done all the work. Like just
Right.
don't stop. Like you can never stop
it's
pushing,
very
right?
precise though. That's
Yeah.
the craziness about the golf swing is like, if you get off on the roadmap at any point, or if that engine, if the train will say, if there's any fault in the caboose or
Yeah.
the engine,
Yeah.
then of course we're going to have a problem
Correct.
when we hit those turns.
Right,
And
right.
that's really what it all comes down to.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of those
Oh,
problems.
yeah.
But it's so cool how like as a coach, how we can just fix people by just getting their grip better. Like
Right.
it's so funny, like remember when we were working for our last company that we worked for, and they didn't want us to like really touch the grip like in the first evaluation. And it was just like, wait, what? Like what? All we did, it was
That
like
was my
figure out-
first lesson every single time.
Me too. Like, I
But
mean,
I'll also say too, I never met one person that came in with perfect claws.
no, me either.
Ever.
Me either.
And I mean, I talk scratch golfers, some
Yeah.
mini tour players. Like they came in and they're like, "Oh wow, like I was doing that bad." It's like, yeah, a little tweak here and there, and like
Yeah.
it's like because nobody. I mean, it's hard to get perfect claws. It takes time,
Well, because there's really no
but they're
like
close though. They're close though.
because
like the
there's
good
really not a
players.
lot of information out there. So
No,
like
no.
how I mean, I don't blame them. Like we're the only people that have really like fully talked about this in this in-depth level,
Mhm.
like ever.
Right. Yeah, no,
You
I know.
know?
Because people are always thinking about the big muscles, and it's like they're all connected to your claws.
Correct.
Because once you isolate those tendons and nerves and everything and the muscles, like then you can utilize your shoulders and your hips and your core and feet like in
Right.
a proper way. But if you lose that connection at any point, it's almost like everything is like wound together with like a big like bungee cord
Right,
or like
right.
a rubber band.
Mhm.
And if one like part of it breaks, it snaps, and all of a sudden it's like, oop,
Whoop.
there's a problem.
Correct.
And how bad that problem is at that point can then lead to either disaster or maybe a somewhat of a
And that's what the
problematic
cool
issue.
thing with our product, with our grip and everything, is we're gonna be able to
Yeah,
find
we're gonna
where
measure
that link happened.
we're measuring the whole
like
thing.
where did that get broken?
Exactly.
It's like, oh, it happened right there at the end of like we call it zone 1, which is really just like the takeaway position.
Yeah, your
It's
takeaway
like,
from set.
oh, okay, like right there, he's not pushing enough, he's not twisting enough, things like that. We won't go too much into that right now because
We're
we
gonna
got a
do
lot of-
another podcast coming up soon.
We
for
got a lot
that.
of really cool stuff.
Zones
coming
1
with that.
through 5.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, really, I'm just excited about what we got going on right now. Like we're gonna keep creating a lot more content. We appreciate all the support that we've been getting. I
Definitely.
mean, we're having a ton of fun. I mean, this is something that we've always wanted to do. Once you figured out, I mean, you figured out the claws, well, I mean, 10 years ago, and then you've just kind of been educating me. I've been kind of your baby Yoda. You've been Yoda.
Right.
And now it's just like everything is, we've always talked about like, okay, we want to do this. We want to do these training aids and we want to kind of create all this content. And I don't know, the podcast
We're
is a
trying to
cool
launch.
way-
Basically, we're just saying we're trying to launch the secret ourselves.
Yeah,
like, in a
exactly.
certain way or on our own,
Right.
opposed to like going to like a Shark Tank thing.
Yeah, and it's
Because-
like we're
yeah.
not trying to like when you look at a lot of these like methodologies of like what's happening in the golf swing, it's like we're just trying to really bring awareness to like, hey, this is what the best players are doing.
Right.
We're not trying to reinvent the wheel.
No.
We're not trying to say like
The wheel's
take the
been
club
invented
this
since
way.
the time that the golf club and ball
Yeah.
were figured out. And
exactly.
it's just like how to figure that out.
Yeah.
Because you can swing a wooden shaft or a steel or aluminum shaft, whatever it is,
Right.
like, and still produce like a certain result if you
But
understand what to do.
I mean, once you have that awareness and you're like opened up, like, oh wow, like that's actually what's happening, then golf gets really fun for a lot of people. And that's what we're here for, and that's what we're trying to do.
it's
so-
the claw knowledge of the golf club.
the claw,
which is
like
the claw law.
I like what you said the other day, claw conscious. I really
Yeah,
like
being
that. You have to be claw
conscious of
conscious.
the claw law
Yes,
and club
exactly.
awareness.
Yep.
That's it.
And it's cool because like our comic book that we're doing is gonna like talk about how like you basically have this world that we created called Clawthoria, and you basically have this world that used to be this magical place where the connection to the golf club was like the law and it's what everybody abided by. And then over time, as like other golf construction companies came in, they were basically saying like, oh no, like the hands aren't as important as the body. And then the whole like paradigm of the world shifted.
Yeah, the
And
claws
then
went
now
away.
the claws went away. And then now here we are in ruins
Back
on
trying
this
to
world,
figure it out
trying to
again.
figure it out. And it's a perfect metaphor to what's happening here on Earth.
100%.
Because the golf construction industry is not in the best place it could be right now.
Definitely not.
Like people need to have the awareness of what the best players in the world are doing. And that's what we're here to do.
Yep.
So thanks for watching. Thanks
you.
for listening. All the links are in the bio. Again, we really appreciate all the support. This has been a ton of fun for us. Just kind of, I don't know, like we're really excited about what we got going on. It's kind of fun for us to just have this like outlet where we can.
The future's exciting.
Yeah, the future is exciting.
That's
and
pretty much it.
yeah, we're trying to help a lot of people, and I hope that listening to this and watching all of our content is doing what we're setting up to do. So
There you go.
I'm Ethan.
I'm Jonathan.
And thanks for watching.
Thanks.